Hi, this is Esther with Discover Your Origins. In this video, we're going to take a look at James Lloyd Thomas. And this was based on a research suggestion by a viewer. And so we're going to take a look and see if we can offer some suggestions on what to do next. So we're going to take a look at the evidence attached to James Lloyd Thomas. We're going to look at what the research problem is, come up with a research objective, and maybe start doing a little bit of evidence analysis. We want to come up with a research plan. So let's get started. So here's James Lloyd Thomas. He's born on the 13th of February, 1834 in Alabama. And this death date here says before 5th of May, 1910. I'm not really sure that that's really, there's no evidence for it. I think I had done some digging around to see where they came up with this, but yeah, that death date is a little questionable. Anyway, let's take a look at the family relationships for James Lloyd Thomas. So as we come down here, we see that he's married to Emily Hitt and the son of John L. Thomas and Martha Apache Edwards, at least on Family Search. But if you start looking a little bit closer, you might start to see where the problem is as I scroll down. But the children for James Lloyd Thomas and Emily Hitt is a little confusing here on Family Search. Emily had been married previously, and she's got some children from that prior marriage. And somebody has added those children as stepchildren, which is true. It would be true. They would be stepchildren to James. But it's super confusing when they're added like this. And so this is just a suggestion, is that they get removed from this family grouping here. And it doesn't discount any relationship they may have had in life as stepchildren, but they should be with their biological family. And I think they are listed with their biological family. We can go look. Yeah, so here they are with their biological father, and there's those 4 children. So now it's very likely that James probably raised these children, but just to keep things a little bit cleaner as far as the relationships and everything, I would recommend removing them as stepchildren in the James and Emily grouping, just to see the differentiation between the biological parents. But anyway, that's aside from that. Let's go back to James's page here. So the 2 of them did have some children together. They had 1, 2, 3, 5 biological children together. And you can see them here. We've got a James Jr. and then some other children here. Now, if you're looking at James's siblings over here, you'll notice that James Lloyd here is highlighted, and then there's a second James L. Thomas. And this is where the problem is. We've got 2 James Thomases attached to this set of parents. And as we dig into this, you'll see where some of the problems start to come out. So the question is, are they duplicates? Are they possibly 2 men with the same name, born about the same time? We need to figure it out. Both of these men did live, so one of them is not a child that died at birth, and then a second child was born and given the same name. That did happen. It is very common in England especially, but elsewhere in the US, but not as common in the South for that to happen. Very likely these 2 are either duplicates or they've been conflated or mixed up as having the same parents. And so that is the research problem that we need to solve. I have started a Google document here. So I've got the original research submission on this tab. Then I have my research plan started here. And you can see that ultimately I'm going to be looking at building a timeline. But the objective is to find evidence for the parentage of James L. Thomas. James was born, and I've got some background information. Most documentary evidence places James L. Thomas in Jefferson County, Alabama. However, John L. Thomas and family were located in Autauga County, Alabama. And the 2 Jameses here One was primarily in Autauga and the other was in Jefferson County. And this one that marries Emily was mostly in Jefferson County, and this other one who appears to disappear, if you could say that, is in Autauga County. So the parents are in Autauga County. Now, one thing that we have to keep in mind is that people did move around. We've got to find out the distances between Jefferson and Autauga County. We need to look at boundary changes of the counties to see, is it possible that they really were all in the same location? You know, there's a lot of questions here. So one thing that I think is really going to help is doing a timeline between the two men. Let's go look at the other James. Oh, before I do that, let's notice that Emily and James get married in 1868. So this is 3 years after the Civil War. So James would have been 34 years old at the time. And it is possible that he could have been married before he married Emily, had a previous marriage. Emily obviously had a prior marriage, so it wouldn't be unusual for James to have also had a prior marriage, but we don't really know that for sure. And when the war started, he would have been in his 20s, late 20s, and so he may not have been married. Hard to say for sure. Let's go look at the other James L. Thomas. All right, so this one we only have 3 sources, and we've got the 1850 U.S. Census, and then he does have another wife here and 3 children. The marriage between James and Sarah is in 1855 in Autauga County, and if we go and look at the sources, we've got a census record and then a marriage record. I really love what this person has done with this source citation here is they've added this one has an image, because trying to figure out which of the marriage records sources has an image takes some time because you have to look at every single one. In Family Search, each version of that evidence, whether it's a marriage register or the actual marriage certificate, is a separate record hint. And so finding the actual marriage certificate takes a minute to do. And so I love that person has done that. It makes it very quick. All right, this 1850 census record here is interesting because it shows James in the household of John Thomas and Martha Thomas in Autauga County when he's 16. And that would make sense. He's still a minor. I mean, 16 years old, he could have gone off and started working on a farm or something like that. But he wouldn't have gone probably too far from his family. And sure enough, this census record shows that very clearly. Let's look at it's a large family. Oh, here's James. That's who I wanted to find. James L., 16 years old. He isn't listed as having an occupation. You can see his older brothers here do have an occupation listed. So he's probably working on the family farm at this point. He hasn't gone off somewhere else. Born in Alabama. So yeah, that all makes sense. Which of the James does this record belong to? That's a good question. Let's go back. All right, so those are just the census records that we have on this particular James, and it can be a little bit of a problem to try to say, well, this James that's in Autauga County goes to Jefferson County. So do a little bit of looking. We'll go to the research wiki here and see what we can learn about Autauga County. So Autauga County was pretty early in Alabama history. It was formed in 1818, and it's no known record loss for the county, so that's good. Populated places, okay. Great. Let's see, here's the map. It's right in the center of the state. All right. So there are a few record sources here. One thing that may be useful is to look for some county histories on Otago County and the families that lived there. Oh, here we go. Here's a book, The Heritage of Otago County, Alabama. It is a book. So that does mean going to the Family Search Library to look at it. Got wills and estate record. Okay, local history. Got some maps, lots of military records. Oh, there's some newspapers. Obituaries, death and marriage notices from Otago County, Alabama newspapers, 1853 to 1889. That could be useful to look at. Voter registrations, state case files, marriage records, deaths and burials. Okay, Alabama Department of Archives and History, the Otago Prattville Public Library. That could be useful. Oh, Otago County Heritage Association and Genealogical Society. Okay, so there are quite a few resources for Otago County, and I think to really understand that family, it's going to be useful to go through some of those sources. So we'll add some of those sources to our research plan. I don't know if we'll be able to get to them in this video, but we'll work on building that out. The next place to look is Jefferson County, Alabama. So let's see where Jefferson County is. So it's a few counties up. So there is some significant distance there. It's not impossible that a child of John Thomas would have moved to another location to make his way in the world. It could have happened. All right, so Jefferson County, courthouse burned and many records were damaged. That doesn't necessarily mean that everything was lost, but there's some record loss. So that does make things a little more difficult because that record loss will impact our ability to determine the differences between the two men. And there's some church records. So there are some record collections here that will need to be evaluated for Jefferson County too. But let's go back. I think the thing that will help the most is to start building out a timeline. So with this one, it won't take very long. We do have the births of these children. Now, these children do show on a census record with their mother, but not their father. Yeah, 1870. So you'll want to build the timeline and include this 1870 census for the children. I'm going to head back over here to my timeline, and we need to create a table. So let's do that. And let's see, we need name, place, maybe name, date, place, notes, source citation. Okay. We may play around with this. So I'm going to work on building this. I may fast forward or speed up the video while I'm doing this so you can won't get too bored watching me while I work here, but we'll just get started and start to see if we can separate out these two men. Okay, so we've made some good progress on the timeline. I wouldn't say it's complete. Definitely need to do the source citations, which I didn't take the time in this video to do that, but I'll leave that for the person who submitted the suggestion to go through and add source citations to the timeline. You can definitely see in this timeline that there is two versions of James Thomas. There's the earlier version before the Civil War, and then there's a later version after the Civil War. So it is possible that they could be the same person. However, there was one thing that I noticed here which made me wonder and think that they are two different people. The first is James Thomas is in the 1870 census. He's married to Emily in 1868, and he's with Emily and his stepchildren and a biological son, James. And then in 1870 is the supposed first wife with her 3 children, and James is not anywhere around, and she's still in Otaga County. It's possible that James and Sarah divorced, and if that's the case, then perhaps there are some court records that show that. But it's also possible that Sarah and James are a different couple from James and Emily. And so I think we need to have a little bit more looking. It would seem unusual for James to just walk away from one family to start another one in a different county. It's not to say that it couldn't happen, it just seems unusual. And so that definitely would need to be explained if they are the same person. Uh, Also, both Jameses are probably impacted by the Civil War. So we have some evidence of the James in Otaga County up until the Civil War. And very likely he did join up and volunteer as a soldier in the Civil War. And if he did enlist, I would expect there to be an enlistment record in Otaga County. We do know that the James of Jefferson County did serve in the Civil War, and there are some military records for that we're going to take a look at closer later. But if they are two separate men, I would expect 2 sets of military records. So we're going to add that to our research plan to take a little bit closer look. So I did brainstorm and add to my research plan. So let's go take a look at the research plan. Here we go. Now I just brainstormed. I didn't go and find the specific record collections yet to look at. I'm going to leave that for the person who submitted this to go through the research wiki and find sources for each of these. But one, we need to look for a divorce record in Otaga County for James and Sarah, if it exists. Sometimes people didn't actually go through the courts to get divorced, and so it is possible there is no record. If Otaga County has records which have been digitized and made available online, then pretty good chance they are available in the full text search. So that should make a quick search for that in those court records. And so we'll have to look and see if they are included in that. Otherwise, we'll have to do a little closer look through the county records. Then we'll need to look at Fold 3. It is available for free at a family search center, and we want to look for a military packet for James Thomas of Otaga County and see if there's a James Thomas in Jefferson County. And that would be probably the best evidence to see if they are two or one and the same. Now, I already know that there's a military pension record for a James Thomas from Jefferson County, and it says that he enlisted in Shelby County. So we may need to also look in Shelby County instead of Jefferson, or in addition to Jefferson County. So we definitely need to do a deep dive in military records. As part of this, we need to research the siblings of Sarah May. So she's living by herself according to our timeline. In 1870, she's by herself in Otaga County. This is the Reconstruction of the South, and it was a very difficult life. If you were a single woman with 3 children, trying to survive financially and take care of your children would have been almost impossible. I have found some other cases where women with children were by themselves, and it clearly identifies them as paupers, and their children are sent to live elsewhere. It's very likely what happened with Sarah because she's not been found in later census records. And so I put in here that we need to research the siblings of Sarah May to see if she's living with any other family member, a sibling or somebody after 1870, because her children may be with her there, or the children could be there. And so we want to look for that. As an aside, I thought, let's look for a will or probate for William E. May. He died in 1858, which would have been after the marriage of James and Sarah. And so that could provide evidence for their marriage relationship. And we could see if they were still together after 1858. We want to map the locations of James L. Thomas's siblings. And so he has a lot of siblings, hypothetical siblings with John and Martha as parents. And so we want to see if any of his siblings lived in Jefferson County. Did they move too? Did they live near each other? And so we want to map them out and see if they were ever neighbors. That could provide indirect evidence of the two Jameses being the same. And then we want to study the Confederate pension record for James. And then we also want to look at the will and probate for John L. Thomas. I do know that that is another record to look at. So there's our plan. It's going to keep us busy for a while. We'll probably look at doing a couple more videos on James Thomas, just doing a little deeper dive in some of the records. And we'll just do a little bit deeper dive and see what we can find. All right, so we're returning to the James Lloyd Thomas profile page where we started. On sticky problems like this, I recommend doing evidence analysis and timelines. They're very useful. And we're going to do a little bit deeper dive in some of the record collections, but having a plan to start helps you organize your thoughts and have everything in one place so you know where you're going, and we're not continuing to look at the same things over and over again. So as we continue to build things out in our research plan will grow and develop, and we'll add some things to it. And we may not be able to solve this problem completely in the videos that we do, but we'll at least explore it as much as we can and provide some guidelines or suggestions of how to continue to try to break through this brick wall. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. We'll see you next time.